Jesus Christ. That's Jason Bourne.
Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome in once again. And no. I did not want to do this video. I did not want to do this review. But I was very curious about this knife. So when Bestech contacted me and said, hey, we've got a cool new knife coming out, wanted to get your thoughts on it, and wanted to know if you wanted to review one. They told me what it was, and I was like, because I've seen the pictures and I had seen the name. I'm like, man, I don't want to, but I want to see if they fell flat on their face here for the first time. And I agreed to it. I said, yeah, okay, go ahead and send it out. Let's have some fun. Oh man, I really dislike being wrong. It's something that irks me a lot. But the difference between me and most other people is the fact that I don't mind admitting when I'm wrong. And I was wrong. I'll put this out there. It's an ugly knife. It is flat out. It's ugly. It's blocky. But the same is going to be said by many people about the actual Glock pistols. So I guess mission accomplished. It feels really nice to use. Now there's no detent, so to speak, on this button lock, and that's not really different from almost any other button lock out there. But it has a very satisfying feel when you get it open and you hear it engaging. It's really cool. And by the way, this very blocky handle actually feels pretty damn good. And that's because they didn't just put a finger choil in here, but it's wider than a standard finger choil and it goes up further and it doesn't come way back down either. It just kind of gives you a skinnier area up here and a wider area back here. In a slip joint, you would call that a gun stock handle. And I got to tell you, I'm very pleasantly surprised. So let's get into the TLDW. That's where I'm going to break down the pros and the cons. Then we'll get into the specs. And then we will get into my final thoughts and the full review portion of this knife. First thing to know is this is $68. That's a pro, sure. And it's releasing October 27th. So that's about a week from today, the day that I'm doing the video. I hope I get it uploaded the same day. So you've got about a week to come up with a whopping $68. You'll be able to get it at besttech.com. And I'm sure they're going to have a buttload of dealers that are going to be carrying these. Because why wouldn't a dealer want to carry it? It's inexpensive. It works well. I think it's going to be popular. And they don't have to invest a lot of money into it. I mean, for a $68 retail, what could the cost really be? So it's not like they have to worry about sitting on expensive aged inventory here. Okay. Another pro. As I mentioned before, even though these are very straight, blocky handles, they've somehow figured out a way to make it comfortable. And I'm not typically a fan of just G10. I prefer to have maybe G10 inlays into titanium or a bolster design where it's G10 and titanium. Basically, I prefer to have titanium. But the way the G10 feels is fantastic. It's got nice textures to it. I like the frag pattern and faux bolster look. Looks really good. And it feels nice in the hand. So there's a lot to love here. Another pro. This particular color combination, which unfortunately they're calling khaki, but if you're into Glocks, you're a gun guy, you're going to call that FDE. So yeah, the flat dark earth looks pretty good. It's a little bit lighter than most. I should have brought out one of my FNs. FN has a history of making multiple different colors of FDE, darker and lighter and different stuff all on one gun. And it tends to look a little bit like patchwork. It looks a little bit weird to some people, but it's grown on us that collect them and love them. And this is kind of the lighter end of the scale. As a matter of fact, I'm going to pause this right now and go grab one. So while Bestech did a weird thing by calling a knife Glock and then spelling it differently, hopefully to avoid being sued by Glock, I'm going to do something equally weird by bringing out an FN instead of a Glock, just so that you get what I mean here. So this is definitely lighter than a lot of FDE that you're going to see. But if I had something like one of their rifles, I believe that you would see something a little bit closer to this lighter color. This is definitely more of a clay color, different shades of clay color on the FN. And that's just what they do. So that's why I kind of dig this particular shade. But again, they're calling it khaki. And there are people that have a lot of different opinions on what khaki is. Khaki could be leaning more toward green than it does tan. I mean, so what's really in a name? Okay. TLDW, pros and cons, another pro. Okay, so there's a lanyard opening. I like that because this is definitely one of those knives that you're probably more prone to carrying a lot and hard using. So if you're a lanyard person, you're probably going to want to put a lanyard and bead on there. And since this knife is absolutely never going to win any beauty contests, I don't see the typical complaint from people that go,
ew, why do they have to put a hole in the presentation side, man? I don't use lanyards, and I think it makes it look ugly with that big old hole.
So I don't really think that complaint's going to be valid on this knife because it's already dog ugly. And that's fine. I'm not saying that every knife has to be beautiful and an artistic representation of the designer's eye for detail and stuff like that. Sometimes you just want a good workhorse knife that fits the hand comfortably and does the job well. And I honestly think this knife is going to fit that bill. Another pro, 14C28N is the steel. Now, while that is not an exotic steel, that is not a super steel, it is one of those base price budget steels that somehow performs above all of the rest of those base price budget steels. And it performs very, very well with some of today's more popular steels. Very good corrosion resistance, very good edge retention. It's both tough and hard at the same time. I mean, not high levels of each, but you're not really going to have to worry about resharpening it too very often. I think it's going to hold an edge better than probably a Sebenza with a 59 Rockwell S35 VN. Just putting that out there. And it's easy to resharpen. It's not a particularly tough steel to the point where you feel that you are going to struggle with resharpening it. So there's all of that. Now, as my neighbor begins to mow his lawn almost every time I push the record button, we will try to ignore the sounds in the background. Another pro is going to be how extraordinarily lightweight this knife is. Oh yeah, because I want you to realize this blade length is just a hair over 3.5 inches. So it's a good sized knife, with your overall being a little over 8 inches. So exactly how light is it? Let's find out. 3.6 ounces. That is perfectly acceptable for an EDC knife. It is a good weight if you decide you want to carry this knife all the time. And I don't see it really as being a pocket hog. Now, while it is pretty tall, it's actually fairly slim, especially for having G10 handles. They're going to tend to be a little bit thicker just so that it's got the rigidity, and they don't have to use massively thick liners inside to keep it from flexing too much. Cons. Well, I've already said it, but ugly. And I apologize, and his name is right here on the blade, to the designer Keanu. I really like the design and how it actually came out. But if you're just looking at it, you're like, man, that is ugly. It's got a weird shape to it. It looks kind of visually imbalanced, especially with the shape of this particular blade. There's not a lot to look at and go, oh man, that's a sexy ass knife. But it feels fantastic. The feeling of opening and closing is a little bit addictive. I think that the ceramic bearings in the pivot definitely aid in that. I wish there was more of a detent feel. I wish the spring on this plunger was a bit stronger. But it's not the worst I've ever felt, and it's actually, again, it's pretty enjoyable to just sit there and play with. So it's not really much to complain about. Any other cons? Yeah, the deep carry pocket clip. I mean, you know, this is not about this knife. It's about every knife on the planet. And it's more about the consumers that beg for it. And they just force these companies to just finally go, fine, we'll cave and we'll make a stupid deep carry pocket clip. It's ridiculous. It's unnecessary. Nobody needs a knife all the way completely in their pocket. As a matter of fact, this whole thing is hidden because you'll notice that the clip, the bend of the clip is considerably higher off of the frame than I've seen before in almost any knife. But yeah, I mean, you still got a clip sticking out of your pocket. People know that you're carrying a knife. It's ridiculous. It just makes it harder to get a grip onto the butt of the knife to get it out of the pocket quickly and easily without fumbling with it. And you definitely don't want to be pinching it like this because you're adding pressure and that makes it harder to extract. So it's the same complaint I've had for the 11 years that I've been doing this on YouTube. It's not a Bestech thing. It's not even the designer's thing. So I'm pretty sure he's just doing what he's being told people are asking for. And yeah, there are a lot of consumers ask for a deep carry pocket clip. And I just, stop. For the love of God, please stop. Anyway, you know what Henry Ford said? He said, if I asked for people's opinions, they would have asked for faster horses. So yeah, our opinions aren't always the right opinions. If we let these companies and these designers do what they want to do, they're probably going to come up with something a lot better than what we have in our limited imaginations. And that's it for the cons. So that's not too bad, right? I mean, yes, saying the knife is ugly. I don't want to offend anybody that loves it. I don't want to offend the designer or Bestech. I love Bestech. They're fantastic. And like I said, it grew on me. I've only had this in my possession for a few hours. And I was coming up here to do a review on another knife, which should have been uploaded just before this one. And I went, you know what? Let me just grab this because about an hour and a half ago, I pulled it out of the mailbox. And I've literally been playing with it ever since. I can't stop flicking it and flipping it and playing with it. And I've just enjoyed it. Now I'm at the point where I kind of want to find something to do tomorrow, get the hell away from the house and away from the shop, and because I want to carry it, I want to have it in my pocket with me, and I want to find something to cut and have a reason for having this in the pocket, because I do dig it. And while I think that they were smart for changing the spelling of the name, because I don't know how litigious the Glock company is, it is good to distance themselves from that. Here's the thing, though. I'm not really entirely certain where they got the inspiration to call it Glock, because it doesn't really match up. You know, it doesn't look like any Glock designs. And Glock also makes knives. They make their field knife, which this doesn't mimic at all. They could have just had a couple of lines here to simulate the milled rings that are in the field knife, because they make a fixed blade. I mean, sure, but I don't see it here. The frag pattern that's on here doesn't really exist on Glocks. I mean, I guess you could look at it as part of if they were exaggerating the front strap and back strap textures on the grips, maybe. But otherwise, I don't really see it, so I think they could have picked any other name. But I think the knife itself is going to be received much like the actual Glock guns. People are going to go, man, it's ugly, it's blocky, there's nothing visually that really appeals to me, but hey, man, it works, and it works well, and the looks can grow on you very, very quickly. I myself have been a long time Glock fan, so I'm certainly not going to disparage one of my favorite brands. Yeah, even the color. This FDE does not match up with the FDE that Glock uses. It's more of a mustardy brown, I would have to say, in real life. I don't know how pictures are really depicting them, but I know my 19X had more of a. Did it have more of a mustardy color, or was it lighter, almost like peanut butter? I don't know. I really don't remember. I got rid of my 19X quite a long time ago. Once I started getting into the shadow systems, so I guess you could call this like the shadow systems of knives, because it's a Glock alike. It's sort of a Glock, but it's not a Glock. Maybe, I guess you could go that route. I haven't photographed this yet. I'm pretty sure at some point in my photography that you would have seen at the beginning of this video, I'm probably going to photograph it with one of those, and just to kind of get that aesthetic. But I'm probably going to end up putting it with this as well, just because it kind of sort of matches. I don't know. Anyway, that's just the random crap that runs through my head. Sorry for the verbal diarrhea there. The next thing I was up to do is the specs. You ready? Here we go. The Bestech GLOK is $68, releasing on October 27th. Your blade material is 14C28N with a black stonewash finish. Handles are all G10 over, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, steel liners. They wouldn't be titanium liners at this price. The clip is stainless steel, and the button lock would have to be steel as well. Ceramic bearings inside, and the thumb studs are hard anodized aluminum alloy, probably 6061 T6 aluminum if I had to guess. Overall length of 8.07 inches, close length of 4.53 inches, blade length of 3.54, just a tick over 3.5 inches, with a 126 thou thick blade. Just about perfect for EDC. And I really like this very high grind that gives you some great geometry to have a good slicer, which I'm excited to start cutting stuff with this right away. Anyway, my closing thoughts on this knife. Forget about how it looks. If you've ever had a car or a gun that really wasn't all that attractive, but once you had it, you fell in love with it really, really quick, or an ugly girlfriend. We've all been there at some point. Or maybe just picked up that ugly chick at the club, and the alcohol wore off, and you're like, whoa, hey, oh man, I brought that home, dear God. But maybe there was something endearing about her, and this could go either way, ladies. You brought home that ugly, hairy guy, and there was something after the initial event that kind of grew on you, and you went, you know what? I love your uniqueness. There's something about that with this knife too. I guess if I had to add one more con, I will. I really do like to reverse flick a lot of things nowadays, but because of how wide the thumb disc is here, what happens is when you flick it, it tends to hit your index finger and slow down the blade and prevent it from locking. So if you're more of a reverse flicker, you're going to have to find a way to keep your index finger off of the knife so that it doesn't impede the opening process. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Anyway, them's my thoughts. I think for the money, you absolutely can't go wrong. If this were $200, $225, $250, something like that, I'd be wringing my hands a little bit going, there's things I like about it and things I don't. So it's not really quite worth that kind of money. But man, for $68, yeah, this is 100% go for it mentality and don't even think twice. Because for $68, you can let something grow on you, right? If you spent $200, $300, $400, you don't want it to grow on you. You want to be in love with it before it arrives. You want to be excited for it before it even gets there. This one, you're going to have to spend some time with. And once you do, I think you are going to dig it quite a lot. Anyway, that's it for me on this one, guys. Thank you so much for joining me as always, and I'll see you on the next video.